Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. She came home on a Sunday night, keys jingling like nothing had changed. Grocery bag in one hand, phone in the other, still laughing at some message she didn't want me to see. But the house was different. Too quiet, too clean, too empty. There was no scent of my coffee in the kitchen. No laptop on the couch. No shoes by the door. She called my name once. Just once. Like she wasn't sure she remembered how to say it. Then again. Louder. A pause. Then silence. The bedroom? Half empty. Drawers open. My clothes gone. Bathroom shelf bare. No note. No text. No, we need to talk. Just a hollow echo of everything she'd ignored for too long. That was 10 months ago. 10 months of her pretending I'd glitched out of existence. And for 10 months she never knew why. But I do. And before I vanished from her world, I made sure every little detail was ready. Because what she did to me, I didn't scream. I didn't break things. I just watched and remembered. This is how it started. Part 1. The day she left me out of her life without saying a word. It wasn't one moment. That's the problem. It was 100 small ones that stacked on top of each other until they crushed something inside me. Like when she came home late for the 3rd time in a week and didn't look me in the eye. Or when she turned her phone screen away from me, as if I'd suddenly become the stranger in our house. There was no fight, no affair I could prove. Just indifference. A slow, heavy fog of silence between us. She used to ask how my day was. She used to kiss my forehead when I stayed up late working. She used to remember that I hate cilantro and that I get headaches when the bedroom fan is too loud. Now, she couldn't even remember if I'd been home all weekend. And honestly, sometimes, neither could I. I started timing how long she stayed in the car before coming inside. Once it was 46 minutes. She just sat there, not talking, not moving, just staring at her screen with a soft smile that had nothing to do with me. I watched from the upstairs window like a ghost haunting his own marriage. The worst part? She was happy. Genuinely happy. Just not with me. I tried everything. Date nights. Her favorite wine. I even bought her those overpriced candles from that boutique she liked downtown. She said thanks. Lit one. Never mentioned it again. I felt like furniture she no longer needed, but didn't know where to throw out. So I made a plan. No yelling. No drama. Just slow detachment. I changed the passwords to my personal accounts. Opened a P.O. box. Cashed out a few vacation days and stopped wearing my wedding ring. She didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't care. The night before she left for her weekend trip with the girls, I made us dinner. She barely touched her plate. Told me she was just tired. Then she went to bed early. Didn't say goodnight. I stood in the kitchen for a long time that night, staring at the candle I bought still sitting on the counter. Burned down. Forgotten. That was the moment I realized. She left me months ago. I was just the last one to leave. So I packed. Quietly. Methodically. I didn't even take everything. Just the essentials. Things that mattered to me. I deleted my social media. Left my phone in the mailbox. I even cleaned the sink and vacuumed the carpet before locking the door behind me. She came back Sunday. And I wasn't there. No explanation. No goodbye. And no idea that this was only the beginning. The first thing she noticed was the quiet. Not the comfortable kind, the kind that wraps around you like a blanket, but the sharp, intrusive kind that buzzes in your ears when something is very, very wrong. The TV remote was still on the coffee table, but the TV was gone. The couch looked untouched. My slippers, which I always left crooked by the hallway, weren't there. The clock ticked. That's all. No music. No clatter in the kitchen. No hum from my laptop. Just the slow, gnawing realization that I wasn't home, and hadn't been for a while. She dropped the grocery bag. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Oranges rolled out and scattered. She called my name again. Louder this time, like she thought I was hiding somewhere, playing some cruel joke. She checked the bedroom. My side of the bed was stripped clean. She opened drawers, half of them empty. She pulled open the closet. Bare hangers swung slowly, clicking against each other like tiny metal witnesses. She must have stared at her phone for hours, refreshing texts, checking my location, trying every contact she had. But she didn't realize I'd shut that world off before I ever walked out. The man she used to live with was gone, and I didn't leave her a digital trail to follow. And still, she didn't cry. Not that night. What she did was try to make sense of it. She called friends. Most of them were polite but distant, because I'd spoken to them before I left. I told them not to get involved. I didn't bash her. I didn't tell them she cheated, because technically, she didn't. Not in a way I could ever prove. It wasn't about another man. It was worse. It was about how she stopped seeing me, even when I was standing right in front of her. For weeks, she kept searching. She filed a missing person report. It went nowhere. I'd left voluntarily with no threat, no crime. Just absence. Cold, complete absence. She didn't know I watched it all from a distance. I'd rented a cheap place 3 towns over under a different name. I didn't go far. I didn't need to. She never once looked behind. Only forward into the mess I left behind. She thought it was about her. About punishment. But it wasn't. It was about me. For once in my life, I made a choice without her voice in it. She started posting online. Sad little paragraphs about missing someone who used to make her coffee just the way she liked it. Someone who always remembered to fill up her gas tank. Someone who didn't raise his voice even when she pushed him to the edge. People commented with hearts and sympathy. You'll find him. He'll come back. Maybe he needed space. No one said, maybe he got tired of being invisible. 10 months passed, and then she found something I'd forgotten to erase. That's when the truth started to unravel. And that's when things got truly messy. It was a receipt. A stupid, crumpled receipt buried deep in the back of her nightstand drawer, the one I used to use before she took over the whole room. I didn't even remember putting it there. It was from a coffee shop 2 towns away, dated 2 months after I vanished. Paid in cash, no name, but on the back in my handwriting was a grocery list. Short, boring, but unmistakably mine. She must have turned the house upside down after that, looking for more, for a pattern, for anything. She knew me too well not to recognize my handwriting. That tiny slip of paper told her something more terrifying than any confrontation ever could. I wasn't missing. I hadn't had a breakdown. I hadn't been kidnapped or robbed or met some tragic end. No, I was alive, out there, shopping, existing, without her. She showed up at that cafe 2 days later. She sat by the window, nursing a latte for 3 hours, probably hoping I'd walk in. I didn't. I was 2 blocks away, watching from inside a hardware store. And for the first time in almost a year, I saw her cry. Not the theatrical tears she used to shed during arguments. Not the guilt-tripping sniffles when she wanted to win. These were different. Raw. Private. She wiped them fast, like she didn't even want herself to know they were there. That's when I started to wonder if maybe she did miss me. Maybe she wasn't just playing a part anymore. Maybe the loss had finally cracked through that wall of detachment she built so well. But it was too late. I didn't leave to teach her a lesson. I left because being forgotten while still present was worse than any goodbye. Back at her house, our house, she started posting again. Cryptic things. Sometimes silence is the loudest scream. 10 months and still counting. Would you forgive someone who didn't realize they were killing you slowly? People started asking questions. Her family reached out. Her mother even called one of my old co-workers. Word was spreading. I wasn't just gone anymore. I was avoiding her. And now it wasn't a mystery. It was personal. Then one day, she posted a photo of the coffee receipt with a caption. If you're reading this, I just want to talk. I stared at it for hours. Was I ready for that? What could I possibly say? That I left because she stopped laughing at my jokes? Because she stopped kissing me goodbye? Because she'd lie next to me in bed every night like I was just some human-shaped pillow she once loved? But none of that would explain it fully. Because the real reason I left, I hadn't even admitted it to myself yet. And then she did something unexpected. She came looking, not just driving around. She found the cafe staff, showed them my photo, left her number. She went door to door in the neighborhood, talked to strangers, asked if they'd seen me. She even checked nearby rental offices. The woman who once couldn't remember what day my birthday was now acting like a widow searching for a ghost. It should have satisfied me, but it didn't, because the thing I feared the most was happening. I wasn't invisible anymore. Now I had a choice to make: stay hidden, or face the woman who once forgot I existed. I wasn't planning to be there. Not really. I told myself I was just passing through the neighborhood, just checking, just curious. But let's be honest, I knew exactly what I was doing. I parked on the opposite side of the street from the cafe, hidden behind the dark tint of a borrowed car. She'd been coming every weekend now, always sitting by the same window, always ordering the same thing. Notebooks piled in front of her. Sometimes she wrote. Sometimes she just stared out the glass like she was trying to will me into existence. It had been almost a year, 11 months and a handful of days. I'd grown a beard, lost weight, wore a cap low over my face. I knew I looked different, but I also knew the second she saw me, she'd know. Some things you just can't unsee. And that day, for reasons I still don't fully understand, I stepped out of the car and walked across the street. She didn't notice me at first. She was scribbling in one of her journals, brow furrowed, lip between her teeth like she used to do when she was nervous. I stood there for 3 whole seconds before she looked up. When our eyes met, the pen slipped from her hand and clattered to the table. For a beat, she didn't move. Her expression didn't even shift, just frozen, stunned. Then she stood, too fast. Her chair scraped back. She knocked over her coffee, and suddenly I saw it all crash down inside her. Confusion, relief, pain, and that deep, searing guilt I'd waited so long for but didn't enjoy seeing. I didn't say a word. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just turned around and walked away. Behind me, I heard the door of the cafe burst open, her voice shouting my name. Not angrily, desperately. She called it again. I didn't stop. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might black out, but I kept walking. I heard her running, then slowing, then stopping completely. I didn't look back. That was the deal. One look. That's all she got. Later that night, I saw her post. I saw him. He looked straight at me and walked away. I guess that's my answer. And suddenly, the silence didn't feel powerful anymore. Felt final. She didn't come to the cafe after that. She deleted her cryptic posts. Her profile went dark. I told myself this was what I wanted, that I had the closure I needed. But the truth is, that single look broke something in both of us that might never be fixed. I sat in my apartment for hours, just staring at the wall. No TV, no music, just me and the crushing weight of what I'd done. I didn't regret leaving. I still don't. But I started to wonder if the way I left made me any better than she'd been when she slowly pushed me out of her life without a word. There was no victory in her pain, no satisfaction in her tears, only more silence. And this time I was the one who had to sit with it. That night I wrote a letter, not to send, just to write. I told her everything I never said, every small moment that made me feel invisible, every quiet insult she didn't know she delivered. Every night I lay beside her feeling like I was fading. Took 7 pages, single-spaced. Then I burned it, because I still wasn't ready. But something had shifted, and she wasn't done yet. I thought seeing her that day would be the end of it, like a final page in a book that had dragged on too long. I assumed she'd break down, then move on, finally accepting that I was gone. But Harper was never the type to let something end without control. And even though I had stripped her of any power over me, she still found a way to speak. Without calling, without writing, without begging. It started a week later. At first, I didn't even know it was from her. I got home from work, same as always, to my tiny, barely furnished apartment that still smelled like cardboard and anxiety. Slipped beneath my door was a manila envelope. No return address. Just my first name in handwriting I hadn't seen in over a year, but still recognized instantly. Inside was a photo, just one. It was of the rosemary plant we used to keep on the windowsill back when we first got married. I hadn't thought about it in forever. It had died years ago, forgotten during some vacation we barely enjoyed. But in the photo it was alive again, fresh, green, thriving. Underneath the photo, a single sentence was written. Some things can come back if you take care of them. I sat down on the floor and stared at it for so long the light in the room changed. The sun dipped low, shadows stretched across the floor, and the air felt heavier somehow. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just existed with that image, and with everything it meant. The next week, another envelope appeared. This time, it was a napkin from the diner we used to go to every Sunday after grocery shopping. She had drawn a tiny doodle of the two of us sitting in our usual booth, her hair a wild mess, me hunched awkwardly, smiling. The caption read, "You always ordered pancakes, even when you didn't want them, just to make me feel better about eating mine." I forgot I ever did that. Then came the third one. It wasn't a memory. It was a page from her journal. Handwritten. Honest. Devastating. She wrote about the night she missed my birthday and lied about work. About how she knew I was slipping through her fingers, but didn't know how to pull me back without admitting she'd let me go. She wrote that she saw me changing, quieter, colder, and thought I was falling out of love. She admitted she was scared to ask why. So she ignored it, and then pretended it wasn't happening. But the final line wrecked me. "I used to think your silence was the punishment, but now I know it was the goodbye." I folded the page in half, hands shaking, and dropped it onto the table. That night I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just sat in that awful chair in that barely lived-in room, thinking about how many things were never said because we both thought we had time. It wasn't some grand gesture. She didn't show up at my door. She didn't scream in the rain. She didn't demand closure. She simply reminded me of who we used to be, before the resentment, before the withdrawal, before I became the man who left without a trace. And despite everything, some small, pathetic part of me started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late. But then I remembered what came after that rosemary plant died. She never replaced it. She just left the empty pot sitting there until the dust covered it completely. I didn't write the letter because I forgave her. I didn't write it because I wanted to go back, or because I missed the way her hand fit into mine when we used to walk home from the movie theater. I wrote it because I couldn't keep carrying the words around anymore. They had settled into my spine like dead weight, bending me further with every passing month. And I guess I needed to put them somewhere other than my chest. It started with one sentence. "You were the one person I wanted to be seen by, and you made me feel invisible." I stared at that line for nearly an hour, unsure whether to continue or rip the page in half and pretend it never happened. But I kept writing. I told her about the night I sat across from her while she texted someone under the table and didn't realize I hadn't spoken for 15 minutes because she hadn't heard a word. I told her about the day I was sick, really sick, and she left me with cold soup and a blanket, saying she had something important to do. I told her how I stood in the hallway once, just outside the bedroom door, listening to her laugh on the phone, and how that laugh hadn't belonged to me in a long time. And I told her I wasn't angry, not in the way she probably thought. I wasn't bitter or out for revenge. I was just tired. So tired of trying to be enough for someone who had already moved on emotionally but didn't have the courage to say it out loud. Then I did something I didn't plan to do. I thanked her. I thanked her for teaching me how it feels to lose yourself while trying to hold on to someone else. I thanked her for reminding me that love without presence is just a memory dressed in denial. And I thanked her for waking up, because those letters, those pieces of our past she'd been slipping under my door, they meant she had finally seen me again. Even if it was too late. I didn't sign my name. Instead, I sealed the envelope, walked 3 blocks to the same cafe where I'd first watched her break, and left it at the counter with instructions to give it to her if she ever came back. 2 days later, she did. I don't know how she reacted when she read it. I didn't watch this time. I didn't hide in a parked car or crouch behind a newspaper. I let it go. For real. That letter was my last thread, and once I gave it away, something inside me finally quieted. But it didn't stay quiet for long, because 3 weeks later I got a package. No return address, just a plain box sitting at my door. Inside was a photo album. The same one we'd started during our honeymoon and abandoned 5 years ago, halfway through a page marked Year 3. But this time it had been filled out. Carefully, thoughtfully. The pages were packed with printed photos I'd never seen. Moments I didn't know she'd captured. Me asleep on the couch with our dog. Me cooking breakfast. Me fixing the broken porch light with a look of absolute concentration. Little things. Quiet things. And on the last page was a note. I stopped seeing you long before you disappeared. But after you left, I saw everything. It hit me harder than I expected. Because for the first time since I walked away, I didn't feel erased. I felt remembered. But that didn't mean I was ready. Forgiveness isn't a switch. Sometimes it's a slow drip. Sometimes it never comes. And the hardest part? She still didn't know the real reason I disappeared. Not yet. Everyone assumed I left because she cheated. That's the default, right? Man disappears. Wife's cryptic posts. Emotional breadcrumbs scattered online like clues in a soap opera. People filled in the blanks with what made sense. She must have been unfaithful, and I must have found out. And sure, I let them believe that. It gave my silence an edge. It gave her guilt a shape. But the truth? The real reason I left had nothing to do with another man. It was something quieter, colder, something most people wouldn't understand unless they'd lived it. I didn't leave because of what she did. I left because of what she stopped doing. There's a kind of neglect that doesn't show up in photos or phone records. A kind that builds slowly, like dust on a windowsill. You don't notice it at first. You keep wiping around it, telling yourself it's fine. But eventually, the sun hits just right, and you realize you're surrounded by something you've been pretending isn't there. It was the way she'd stopped asking how my day was. The way she no longer sat beside me on the couch but across from me, like we were always on opposite teams. It was coming home to a woman who didn't lift her eyes from her screen. Sleeping next to someone whose body curled away like instinct. I could have handled anger, fights, even betrayal. But I couldn't handle disappearing in plain sight. The day it finally broke me wasn't dramatic. No slammed doors. No shouting. Just a Tuesday. I came home early with a pizza from that place she loved. The one with the garlic crust and the weird soda flavors. She used to beg for it. I set the table. Lit a candle. Put on the playlist we made in year 1. She walked through the door, glanced at the setup and said, "Oh, I already ate with the girls. Sorry." Then she went to take a shower. That was it. No hug. No pause. Not even a thank you. I sat down alone. Ate a slice. Turned off the music halfway through. And I knew I couldn't do it anymore. Not one more silent dinner. Not one more night pretending we were okay. I didn't leave because she betrayed me. I left because she forgot how to care. And now, after nearly a year, she was starting to remember. But it was too late to reverse the erosion. You can't revive something that wasn't killed, but slowly allowed to die. Still, that album shook something loose in me. Not forgiveness, but clarity. She'd finally seen me. Not the man she wanted me to be, not the ghost she mourned online, but me. And in some twisted way, that was all I ever wanted. Not to punish her. Not to make her chase me. Just to be seen. That night, I started writing again. Not letters this time. Not journals. A list. A list of things I never told her. Things she wouldn't want to hear. Like the fact that I used to cry in the shower because it was the only place she wouldn't hear me. Or how I once practiced what I'd say if I ever decided to leave, but never had the courage. Or that I sometimes wondered if she even knew my favorite color anymore. I didn't write the list to send it. I wrote it to remind myself of the truth. Because part of me wanted to go back. That's the most pathetic part of all. After everything, some whisper inside me still asked, what if she's changed? But the question I should have been asking was, have I? And if she really wanted the whole truth, if she really wanted to face what broke me, she'd have to do more than send photos and flowers and memories. She'd have to face herself. It was raining when she showed up. Not the cinematic kind with thunder and dramatic lightning. Just steady, quiet rain that made the world feel heavier somehow. I heard the knock before I saw her. 2 soft taps, followed by nothing. I almost didn't answer. My hand hovered over the knob, heart pounding like it was deciding for me. And then I opened the door. There she was. Harper. No makeup. Hair damp from the rain. Eyes red not from crying, but from not sleeping. She looked smaller than I remembered. Less put together. Less polished. More real. She didn't say anything at first. Neither did I. We just stood there, locked in the kind of silence that no longer felt like war. Felt like peace. Or maybe the end of one. Finally, she pulled something from her coat pocket. It was the list. My list. The one I'd written and thought I'd thrown away. But I hadn't. I tucked it into that photo album when I returned it to the mailbox weeks ago, half hoping she'd find it, half hoping she wouldn't. I read it, she said quietly. All of it. I nodded. Still didn't speak. I didn't come here to fix things, she added. I came here to thank you for making me see who I became. And to tell you, I remember now. I remember you. That broke me. Not in the painful way. In the way a frozen thing cracks when the sun finally hits it. I stepped aside. Let her in. We didn't have some big, dramatic talk. We didn't fall into each other's arms. We sat on my couch side by side and shared stories. Laughed a little. Cried some. She told me she started therapy. That she was living slower now. That she'd stopped pretending. I told her about the quiet life I built, the nights I still missed her, and the mornings I didn't. And then she asked, "Do you think we could ever find our way back?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I didn't see the woman who let me fade. I saw the woman trying to rebuild what we'd buried. I don't know, I said honestly. But maybe we could start by having dinner. Her smile was small, grateful. No garlic crust this time, she said. You always hated it. We laughed. And just like that, something began again. Not where we left off, but somewhere new. Which moment from this story hit you the hardest? The letter? The cafe? The final knock? Tell us in the comments. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions, where the stories are real and sometimes the endings are too.